Regret is the natural consequence of time, the force by which every choice ever made has been inexorably etched into the eternal history of the future. I do not believe there exists a long-lived human who has not at some level, at some point, wished for the ability to reverse a decision, to rectify a regret. Story upon story has been written to explore the premise. Unlike people in the real world, characters are able to go back in time and change their future. But what are the ramifications? What are the costs? Not only to the characters, but to the story itself. First, what allows a story that we know to be fictitious to be relatable? The characters emulate relationships, thought processes, and emotional responses observed in the real world. To that end, even fictional stories must be grounded in a basis of reality to be emotionally compelling. For example, take a look at this character. His eyes are unfocused, he's gasping for air, and he's sweating. These signs of intense physical exertion reflect a shared reality. We all know what it feels like to be tired. The writer doesn't have to construct the concept of exhaustion from the ground up. One significant shared aspect of reality is individuality. Every single person has their own unique constitution and experiences. That uniqueness is the foundation of interpersonal relations. For example, you can't just replace your best friend. The permanence of experience speaks to the value of life. Opening a can of worms is a metaphor that is used to say that if you want even just one worm, you have to worry about all the other worms. If you want to make use of a particular idea, such as sending a character back in time, you have to deal with all the implications that necessarily accompany it. And for this reason, I posit that unchronological time travel should not be used as a non-focal tool in fiction. The unique value it brings in must match the cost it incurs. The moment it is introduced to a story, that story immediately loses an important string that ties it to reality. Individuality is no longer absolute, experiences are no longer permanent, the values of one life is diluted into the pool of countless lives they could have in exchange. The unmatched force of death is brought to its knees. John Bigelow goes as far as to argue that time travel spatializes time, making stories inherently inconsistent. In spite of this, time travel has been made to work. One method is reducing its cost by introducing constraints, strict rules and conditions surrounding time travel. This way, the unique value brought in can more easily match the cost, but even so, it must be focal. An example of time travel being used non-focally is Kingdom Hearts. The antagonist is responsible for gathering 13 people to be more or less representatives of darkness. Sparing details, he assists in his goal by conjuring a version of himself from the past. The issue is, there was no overt reason that it had to be him from the past. It could have been written in a way that didn't necessitate invoking that cost. In spite of having set up specific constraints, the cost of adding time travel to the story was not matched by the unique value it brought in. So then, how does a story acquire that unique value? Sean Redmond argues that time travel creates a necessary distancing effect by forcing characters to contemplate why things happened the way they did. Ironically, focusing on the cost is often also how the value is obtained. Steins Gate is an anime that is centered around time travel. The protagonist watches his friend die hundreds of times, traveling back in time over and over again, attempting to save her. He slowly loses his sanity and becomes desensitized to watching her die. The cost of time travel is still there, the power of death is diminished. The difference is that here, the ramifications of that is a focal point. It is strongly reflected on the character of Okabe. The artistic focus makes it that much more meaningful when he finally is able to achieve his proverbial victory against fate. Similarly, in the anime Re:Zero, Subaru has the involuntary ability to travel back in time upon dying. Entire episodes worth of events are wiped away, only to be remembered by Subaru and the audience. Again, the implicit costs of time travel are a focal point, as Subaru alone carries memories of the unmade pasts. He makes a promise to go out on a date with his crush, but that promise is deleted from history by higher powers, leaving only the feeling of being robbed by the universe itself in its wake. Following a character that has to cope with these experiences is an exploration that is uniquely tied to this violation of reality. The butterfly effect, coined indirectly by Edward Lorenz, is the idea that small variances in the initial conditions could have profound and widely divergent effects on the system's outcomes. For this reason, writing time travel requires an immense level of attention to detail. Finally, once time travel is introduced to a story, it can never be removed. Even if it was only intended to be part of a single chapter, the implications on the universe's natural structure is stuck with you for every chapter going onwards, and is even retroactively applied to previous chapters. In conclusion, a story should only include time travel if it is an essential factor whose use cannot be otherwise written around, because the cost of including it is heavy, expansive, and irreversible, because shared reality is what makes stories so compelling. Thank you.